Ladies and gentlemen, Psalms 73 says, "But as for me, my feet were almost gone. My steps had well nigh slipped. Behold, these are the ungodly who prosper in the world. They increase in riches. I said to myself, truly I have cleansed my heart in vain, and washed my hands in innocency. For all the day long I have been plagued and chastised every morning. If I say I will speak this, behold, I should offend against the generation of your children. When I thought to know this, it was too painful for me until I went into the sanctuary of the Lord and understood their end. How they are brought into desolation, as in a moment. They are utterly consumed with terrors. As a dream when one awakes, so, O Lord, when you awake, you shall despise their image. So my heart was grieved, and I was pricked in my reins. So foolish was I, and ignorant. I was as a beast before you, Lord. Nevertheless, I am continually before you. You have hold me by my hand. You shall guide me with your counsel, and afterwards receive me into your glory. Who have I in heaven but you? There is none upon the earth that I desire than you. A lot of times we see people do evil and prosper. They're deceitful, wicked, destructive, and it seems as though they're having their way in the time of their day. But as with all things, a man at some point has to pay for what he has done. He must be held accountable. The scales will be balanced, whether in this life or the next. And so it's better to do good, my friends. Let's get into Justice League. Now, one of my videos that I had was speaking on the parallels between Man of Steel and Justice League. And one of these parallels was speaking about the world as a character, the people of the world. And I asked two questions. The first one was, why were there two heroes who we saw in the presence of the people saving the people? Particularly the act of saving, not the act of engaging with a villain and taking him down, ultimately saving the world, but in actually being in a similar place where the two heroes saved these people. The second question was related to the first, and that is, in Batman v Superman, we did not see a similar scenario to the scenario we saw in Man of Steel and Justice League. And I asked, why is that? The two questions are related to each other, and they are both relevant. And I want to go deeper into why that is so. First, in Man of Steel, the two heroes were Superman and Lois. Lois was told by Jor-El to use Superman's craft and use the phantom drives in the craft and create a singularity or a black hole which would suck everybody in. So she had the information and she implemented it with the military. And Superman, he was able to tackle the other world engine and stop the terraforming of the world, so saving the world. So these were the two principal heroes of the story. In Justice League, we're talking only specifically about the people in the act of saving people, were the Flash and Superman. The Flash did it twice in the movie. He saved people in the tunnel, the scientists, etc., along with Cyborg. And then he also saved people in this very remote area in Russia known as Bezornov, which is near to a nuclear plant. He saved people there, a family. And here, below here, is that. And Superman also did the same. He assisted the Flash in saving people as well, families. And that was down below here. I'm sorry, I apologize for the blurry picture. We did not see that scenario in Batman v Superman. Yes, Superman saved people in Batman v Superman. We saw that. Saved people in floods. He saved people in burning buildings. He saved space shuttles. He saved a lot of things. But the situation was not the same and was not a parallel. Superman did not save a bunch of people in which you were following as the story progressed. Now, in Man of Steel, we were following three people: Jenny, Perry White, and Steve Lombard. Particularly, we were following them when the World Engine was terraforming the world. We saw the grander scope, what was happening in Metropolis. We saw the city being crushed. We saw people going up in the sky and being crashed back down on the ground. We saw cars being destroyed. And we saw the military going all over the place and crashing all over the place because of the gravitational field changing. So we got an idea of magnitude, but we wanted to know it personally. What was happening in these people's minds personally? And the people who were chosen for that were Jenny, Perry White, and Steve Lombard. And Jenny was trapped under rubble. And Steve Lombard and Perry were trying to free her. And all three of them were trying to escape the destruction and imminent death coming their way. So what it does, it personalized the angst and the destruction that was happening in Metropolis. But these people actually survived. So these are the survivors of this disaster: Jenny, Perry White, and Steve Lombard. The other people of Metropolis who survived, we only saw that scope as, they panned out and showed some survivors, which you can see on the side here. There are survivors of Metropolis here. Dunkirk was another fantastic kind of heroes movie where citizens came to save people who were trapped in a war. Again, you're dealing with the people that were trapped in the war, and you're seeing what's happening, and you're going along with the story with them from beginning to the end of the story, but you also see the other people coming to save them. So you have heroes there and so on. That's, again, another story where you're following the people in the drama. You didn't see that in BVS. But if you look at superhero movies, that doesn't even happen. Usually in superhero movies, you're not following some representative of the world you're in, like Metropolis or like Bizarnoff, and following them as the story's going along. You don't see that in superhero movies. You would see maybe people being saved, but you always focus mostly on the heroes and what they're doing. And then those people just aside, like a side glimpse. You don't come back to them. You don't follow through and follow up on them like what happened in Justice League and what happened in Man of Steel. So we keep on coming back to Jenny, Perry White, and Steve Lombard because they are characters representative of the people of that world, the people of Metropolis. And these are the people that need help, but they personalize them by having these three people. In Justice League, we had the same kind of dynamic, where we were actually following a Russian family. We were introduced to this Russian family. And this Russian family happens to be in the area where Steppenwolf and his parademons have actually started hiding and concocting their plan by getting all the mother boxes together. And the difference between Man of Steel, the villain there, and the villain in Justice League is that the villain in Justice League is trying to do everything in secret. He's not trying to come all out with all his power like General Zod did. No, he tried that, he failed. So he's not trying that again. He's trying to be more clever in what he's doing and subtle. And so this Russian family in the middle of nowhere, like this place is like a place where you would never want to be. The Flash say, why would these people go to this area? Aquaman say, well, they've been kicked out of everywhere else, so they're outcasts. And Aquaman would know about that because he was dealing with outcasts in Iceland, a place so far and remote and harsh that he has to come in and bring fish to the people at a certain point of the year. And these people have a relationship with him. It seems like they have a relationship with him for a very long time because they have his information there on their wall. We have a bunch of people who have been kicked out of everywhere else. They're outcasts. And they're surviving, and they're making themselves comfy and cozy. You can see they don't even have a proper radio, so they don't have contact proper with the world. Their father reads the paper, the boy's trying to get the radio to work. It's the absolute contrast to Man of Steel, because in Man of Steel, people have cell phones. You hear Jenny saying, my phone's giving a different feed. The Russian family don't know about phone giving no feed, folks. They're not like that. They're the absolute opposite. They're the counter to what's happening in Man of Steel. The other thing that I find very interesting, what Zack Snyder does so very well, is he doesn't let you hear about any family member's name except for one person, Yuri. Yuri, the young boy who's messing around with the radio. and Zach stuck to them speaking a foreign language. Beautiful. They're foreign. They're different. So we feel that feeling of they're different, they're out there, they're outcast, they're outdated. He wants you to feel that. They're from Russia. And right now, people think of Russia in a negative way. Americans, at least in the West, have animosity towards Russia. And I love how Zach is humanizing the Russians. He's making them people like you and me. And so, even if you don't know their names, even if they're outcasts, even if they're outdated, you feel what they feel. You feel their palpable fear. You feel their angst. You feel their desire to want to survive, like Dunkirk. You're getting that kind of Dunkirk feel in a Justice League movie, a superhero movie, something you would never get in any other movie. And you're following these people, you're going back to their story, and you're going away from it throughout the movie. And Zach does that beautifully in not only telling the story, but also in the scripting. Because the scripting has very few words, but whatever words are there, you hear the father encouraging the family. The father's the one with the gun, trying to protect them. The father's the one creating the initiative to block up the windows. He is the Perry White of that family. And with few words, the mother not sure about what the father's hope is, we get the scenario that we got in Metropolis. Different people, different environment, slightly different situation. Most of the world doesn't know about them. Only the heroes know about them. But most of the world doesn't know they exist. Because of that, we hear the Flash speak about them as they find out, oh, there's a settlement there. People tried to go back there and live. And then we hear Alfred speak about them when he's saying, there's some civilians and they're heading east, but they're not going to make it. This is beautiful. Then Superman hears them. His ears hears them, their cries and their pleas, and he goes off to save them. It's amazing because some of the most God-forsaken people in this world, which nobody's thinking about, God thinks about them. He hears them. The Jesus motif. And these people become a pressing concern to him. Even more pressing than what the Justice League is fighting up with. So they're representative of the group of outcast people who settle in that area after they've been kicked out of everywhere else. The people in Metropolis were not outcasts. I said you have the representative of the family, and then we see the bigger scope where Superman saves all these people in the buildings. All of these are families you're seeing in the little rectangular blocks. He saves all these people as he ships them out in a building. So why? Why two heroes? Let's start with the motif of two. It was established in Man of Steel, and it continued in Batman v Superman, and finally in the third part of the trilogy, Justice League. If you look at Superman, anything revolving around Superman always has two involved with it. Superman is a product of two worlds. Superman has two names. He has an earthly name, and he has a heavenly or Kryptonian name. The Kryptonian name is divided into two parts. We have Kal-El. His father, his birth father's name is Jor-El. His birth mother's name is Laura Van. He has two earth names, Clark Joseph. He has a name and a surname, Clark Kent. He has an earthly father and he has a heavenly father or Kryptonian father. He has two mothers. He has an earthly mother and he has a heavenly mother, a Kryptonian mother. Superman has an earthly job and he also has a Kryptonian job. His Kryptonian job is Superman. His earthly job is Clark Kent, Daily Planet reporter. So he operated as an earthly person, but then he would take on his Kryptonian persona, which was Superman, with his Kryptonian purpose. His Kryptonian father gave him his purpose. Superman, when he's carrying out his purpose, needed assistance from two women on Earth. He has close associations with them. The first being Lois Lane. The second being Martha Kent. who grounds him to earth. In Batman v Superman, Martha and Lois get kidnapped by Lex Luthor. The major villains in Man of Steel were General Zod and also his second in command, Faora Ul. In Batman v Superman, we had two villains. We had Doomsday and we had Lex Luthor. There were two people opposed to Superman, which was Lex Luthor and Batman. In Man of Steel, we have Superman and Lois Lane, who are the people who save the world. In the Batman v Superman, two heroes going up against each other, where Superman is pitted against Batman. So no matter how you look at it, there's always the system of twos and twos and twos you see throughout. With Superman, when we look at what he had to do, he had to save a world engine on the other side of the world. Then he had to come back and save Metropolis. Okay? Which was two tasks. And so you can just go on and on and on with the double theory. Once you say Superman, there's going to be two. There's going to be double. The principle of double is like where in Scripture, I go back to Scripture and they talk about delving out a double portion. We talk about the double portion of the Holy Spirit, a double dose of the power of God. When we say double, we mean a blessing. And just as in Scripture there's the double portion, so Zack Snyder gives you a double of everything that is important and pertinent to Superman. The double motif. You see it over and over and over. So why were there two heroes? It fits into the double motif of Superman. In Batman v Superman, the crisis that was happening in downtown Metropolis with Doomsday, Superman basically didn't have to save the people of Metropolis directly, at least, in that scenario, because no one was there. Most people were gone home. There was military people there trying to stop Doomsday, but other than that, there wasn't a lot of people there. So the whole fight with Doomsday, the big baddie in that story, did not really there were no civilians in the crosshairs to worry about. With Man of Steel and with Justice League, there were civilians in the crosshair as the Justice League were fighting Steppenwolf, or when Superman was fighting General Zod's forces with terraforming the Earth. Why is it that BVS was not with this motif of two heroes saving people instead of two heroes pitting against each other? Batman v Superman is the body, or the interstitial tissue, or the connective tissue that joins Man of Steel to Justice League. It was there as a segue to help you understand Justice League, which is the fulfillment of Man of Steel. So what you'll find is that when you look at Justice League and Man of Steel, you're going to see a lot of parallels between the two movies. A lot of them. Because Justice League is the answer to Man of Steel. But Batman v Superman is that connection that connects Man of Steel to Justice League. A lot of things that Jor-El said to Superman, a lot of things that Jonathan Kent said to Superman, they are fulfilled in Justice League. That's why you will see that parallel between the two heroes that you saw in Man of Steel in Justice League. I will show you. Remember, I told you double means blessing. When we look at Man of Steel, Clark Joseph Kent, or Kal-El, is standing in the sun as Superman, the Man of Steel. This image and this iconography right here, this right here you're looking at above, is where the movie gets its title from. Okay? Here is Kal-El walking into his destiny. This is what his father wanted for him from Krypton. And his earthly father didn't know exactly what his father from Krypton wanted, but he encouraged him down the line to find out what that was. This is where the beginning, the birth of the superhero begins in this universe. Now, yes, Wonder Woman was there long before Kal-El was there. That is true. And, of course, Kal-El was there long before Wonder Woman was there. But Superman is the first one to come out of the shadows and declare himself in the light as a beacon before mankind. Zack speaks so much visually. The cape flapping, and the sun is off to his left, shining down on him. as he looks into the vast, empty wilderness before him. Icy wilderness of mountains. It's very beautiful, and you can see the rays of the sun coming down there. You see the rays there. It's a very beautiful picture. And this is the beginnings of Superman, hence Man of Steel. By the end of the movie, we're beginning to see the Superman we know and recognize. He's now Clark Kent of the Daily Planet. We don't begin with that. Not like Superman 1978, not like those other movies. We see instead the beginnings of Clark Kent. He's being introduced to the planet, and the Superman you kind of know, you're beginning to see. Justice League is the fulfillment of the speech that Clark Kent's birth father, Jor-El, said to him. He said, the people of Earth are not the same as the people of Krypton. That is true. But you can give the people of Earth hope. The symbol for the House of El is hope. Hope is the potential of every person in the world to be a force for good. And you can show them how that's done. You can give them an idea to strive towards. They will stumble. They will fall. But in time, they will join you in the sun. In time, with you, they will work wonders. Justice League is the fulfillment of that. Where we see Clark Joseph Kent, or Kal-El, is joined by the people of Earth, represented by these 5 heroes: Batman, the Flash, Cyborg, Aquaman, and Wonder Woman. They join him in the sun. And when they join him in the sun, they join him as the Justice League. In short, this picture here summarizes everything you need to know about the Justice League. It's the beginning of the Justice League. We see above in Man of Steel the beginnings of Superman, known as the Man of Steel. Staring at the mountains, they're bare. But in Justice League, they're staring at a vast, outcast land, but this time it's not bare. It's filled with greenery and plants. As we watch the sun come down at them on a different angle. The beginning of another day, a dawning of another day. In this one, we see the sun dawning in on Clark. The dawn of Superman, the Man of Steel. In Justice League, we see the dawning of the Justice League. The fulfillment of Jor-El's statement. And the fulfillment also, in truth, of Jonathan Kent's statement, where he says, one day you will see these gifts as a blessing. And you will make a choice to stand in front of the earth proud or not. And we see it start in Man of Steel, but we see it reach its fulfillment in Justice League. And its fulfillment is double that. A double blessing, a double portion that we saw in Man of Steel. Now it's multiplied. It is no longer just Kal-El or Clark Joseph Kent standing in the sun alone, watching at the bare icy mountains. No. Now he's accompanied by 5-fold. They are now 6 strong. The League beginning with 6 people, the mark of a man. He's no longer alone, and he's watching at the lush, yet isolated and discarded grounds of a nuclear plant that had been disposed, but now growing up lush in vegetation. As the sun, the rising sun, pours down on the red crimson sky, showing that blood was shed for this to happen. The blood of Superman. Again, very biblical, but powerful. Because in Superman's death, as in Jesus' death, we have his body. Innumerous. He's able to bless the world through his death. And so the same with Superman. He's able to bless the world through his death and resurrection. And now we have 6 strong. So that is what Justice League does, and that's why it's a parallel. And that's why the double And why two heroes? Because Superman no longer needs to work alone. In Batman v Superman, we saw Superman taking the brunt and burden of the world alone. Lois Lane was trying to protect him, but the scenario was slightly different. Now he was on his own, and he was alone, trying to wrestle with a world that is conflicted about him. The interstitial tissue is important because the motif that we see in Justice League is you cannot save the world alone. And it was very important that Superman be seen as someone who struggled and actually dies under the weight of having to save the world alone. And so, whenever Superman comes back, he's not saving the world alone. Any action that Superman takes is in conjunction with and helping out another Justice League hero. It was very important that that be the case. And so Superman came to help the Flash save the people. The first time the Flash was pretty much alone helping and saving people, while the other members of the League took on Steppenwolf. But in the second time that the Flash has to save people, he's working alongside with Superman, and that has a multiple effect in helping him to be successful. The Flash, in carrying out his purpose now, is successful in carrying out his purpose, saving the optimal amount of people because of Superman. Now, when Superman and Lois Lane, Superman being the only other superhero in Man of Steel, attempted to save people, you heard his father Jor-El say, "You can save Lois. You can save them all, Kal." But he fails to save all of Metropolis, which is what leads to the conflict in Batman v Superman, Dawn of Justice. However, when Kal returns in Justice League, he is not alone anymore. The blessing, the fulfillment of what Jor-El was saying finally comes to its fruition in Justice League, where not only is Kal stronger and more powerful and more comfortable with the world, having owned it, this is my world, but now he has all of these superheroes who have the same mindset as he does, to save people and make the world a better place. He's not alone anymore. He doesn't need to save the world alone. And so the fulfillment of this in Justice League shows that Kal goes off this time, Clark Kent goes off this time to save people along with a hero who has gone before him and has already started. Even though that hero is like where Clark was, it's new to him to save these people. He's still wet behind the ears. So now Clark, with all this seasoning, experience, having come from the dead, experienced death and all of these things, he now is able to help that person. And he immediately realizes there are too many. When Bruce says, "I sent the Flash out to save them," he said, "No, there's too many." And he goes off and he saves all those people, helping that little hero to be successful and himself to finally fulfill what Jor-El was saying. You can save them all, Kal. Because he doesn't do it alone. Now, he did it with Lois Lane, but Lois Lane was not a superhero. This time he does it with the Flash, and he succeeds. And you do remember Jor-El saying to General Zod, "My son is twice the man you ever were." Remember that? Double. And he will finish what we started. And Superman dies, and he becomes twice the man he was himself this time. And so the things that Superman can do in one blow is much more than he could have done when he was alive the first time and didn't die. And similarly, Jesus can do so much more now, because he's everywhere, than when he was alive walking this world and did not pour out his life for us. Zack Snyder cares so much about the people of the world in his movies. He made them a character in his movies. And now he's showing that Superman not only reaches people from a city he was near to, Metropolis, but now Superman can help the outcast, the forsaken, the weak, But he's not alone in doing that. And even before he came back from the dead, he had set in motion, he had poured his spirit out into Batman. And Batman did things unlike his nature and began to recruit people and pull them together. And it was double recruiters. There were two people that Batman had to have to recruit the League. It was him and Wonder Woman. Double once again. He didn't even ask her. She just came out of nowhere. Whoop! And she was there to help him make sure that happened. Superman symbolized hopefulness, the best in us. And at the end of BVS, we hear Batman speaking like Superman would speak. And so Superman lives in Batman, which is why Superman had to come back. It wasn't an if or but, it was a when would he come back. And today, it is the same for those people who want to live in a life that betters other people around them. They live in the spirit of goodness, a spirit of goodness that we saw and read about in Jesus when he walked the earth. Other people talk about other good people, whether it be Buddha or the prophets, or some people talk about Muhammad. Whoever they think represents good, if that's what you want to walk by. And that's why we have religions, people following different people who they consider good. Bringing it back to Man of Steel and Justice League, the fulfillment of Superman's essence, Batman helped to channel that through, and finally we saw it culminate at the end of Justice League. Let me translate that into everyday language for you guys. As we grow as people, I'm a Christian, so I would say in my Christian walk, as I grow, I get stronger. I will stumble and I do fall. But I come out of the shadows. I come out of the shadows and I start to join other people in the sun. And when we work together, we get stronger than if we're working alone. At first we feel we're all alone. And then we find out there are more of us. More people who wish well for the world. More people who have hope. More people who believe beyond the reality of the situation. And so this video is to empower you to come out of the shadows. If you look at the scripture here, you will see Zack Snyder's symmetry, the sun and the shadows. Clark Kent was in the shadows for a long time. And his father said, at a certain point, you will have to come out of the shadows. For 33 years, he was in the shadows. The Justice League were in the shadows for a long time. But Superman's death prompted them to have to come out the shadows. Batman, a guy who lives in the night and the shadows, had to come out of the shadows, reveal himself to these exceptional people. And each one of you in this world is an exceptional person. You bring to the table something nobody else does. Your superhero power is your supernatural power. Each one of you have the potential to be a force for good. And whether you are religious or not, the bottom line is this. You have to come out of the shadows. You have to stand in the sun. You will have to stand in front of mankind and show your purpose. Whether it be good or bad, at some point you will have to do that. You cannot hide in the shadows anymore. The world we live in today has lots of social media platforms. The tools are there. You can use them for good or for evil. You can hide in the shadows, watch pornography, hide in the shadows, speak bad about different people and different things and dig at different people and have a very disgusting, sad life. Or you can come out of the shadows and decide to do something that is productive, good and constructive in this world. A lot of you mean well, want well for yourselves and other people. You just don't know how to do it. These heroes were the same. This is the dawning of justice. Justice is fear, loving, kind. Justice is good. And sometimes people corrupt justice. And they abuse justice. You, me, the others. We can enforce justice. There are a number of movements in the world today. The Me Too movement, very fair movement. Black Lives Matter. There is now the movement to see that assault guns and people using assault guns use them responsibly, and also that it's regulated properly with proper background checks, etc. Children in secondary schooling, high schoolers and middle schoolers, are standing up. They're coming out of the shadows. But you don't have to come out of the shadows because something bad happens. You can come out the shadows and be a beacon of light now, today. Instead of being unempathetic to everything that's going on around you and just concerned about your life and your world. You can start today. A new world with the birth of a new League for Justice. And that imagery is to fuel you, me, and other people to want a new day where we come out of the shadows and we share with the world this rebirth within us. Hope. When we see the end of Man of Steel, we see the people coming out of ruins. The people are coming out of ruins. Because Superman alone is the only superhero. At the end of Justice League, we don't see that. We see that, yes, there's some ruins there, but what has grown out of the ruins is a rebirth of beautiful flowers. They're a little freaky looking because of Wiccan, but beautiful flowers. And the landscape is still beautiful. Beauty out of destruction and chaos. Hope. See the different landscapes? Bare, it's snowy, it's cold. Now the world is warming up to the heroes, and it's teeming with life out of destruction. Different to the Metropolis scenario. What a finish. Double. This is the second. In the Bible it says the second is greater than the first. Your latter shall be greater than your former. This was incomplete salvation. But with rebirth, we have complete salvation. The Messiahs are complete. And here we have the incomplete Messiah, the beginning. And now we have the complete Messiah with the ending and the formation of a new beginning, a new hope. Because this is the beginning of the League here. This is the beginnings of Superman, and this is the beginnings of the League. Leave your comments in the comment section below. On that note, you guys have a great one.